to be unstoppable. How to stop those limitations in your head, those yada yada messages which are telling you, no, you can't do it. And how to conquer the world, conquer anything you want to know. Well, dear listener, today I have somebody very special, a very special guest whom once I saw her on the screen, I was glued to the screen and I could not stop watching Unstoppable Tracy. Who is Unstoppable Tracy? Oh, you will love to find out that our Unstoppable Tracy, our dear guest today, she's international award-winning business leader and a speaker with stars and also a TEDx speaker, which you know is not that easy to get the title, right? She's also decorated athlete and also TV host. She's also best-selling author and drums into the studio. She's also four-way amputee, who is also first amputee who climbed the Himalaya Mountains. I must say, this is absolutely remarkable person to have right now today in my studio. And I am so excited to share with you her story, her inspiration, her energy. Because just like last time I was looking at Tracy, I was glued. And I can promise you'll be glued to the screen as well.
No.
Tracy, thank you so much for coming up today to my show.
Well, hello, Olga. What an authentic introduction. Talk about how to conquer those challenges. That was a perfect example of how to conquer a kick butt introduction. Well, thank you.
It's a pleasure. But darling, what I shared there was an absolute truth, because as I saw you at Dallas Voice show, I just saw you and your amazing, amazing energy was just shining through the screen. And I feel people, I'm very sensitive and I'm very intuitive person. Not in terms of sense, if I'm going to cry, hopefully I'm not going to cry. But what I mean, I can feel people and I felt you and I felt your energy. And I was like, oh my God, if you remember, even during the show, I was like, Tracy, I want you on my show.
Yes, right in the middle of the podcast. I loved it. Our energy was kindred spirits. Olga's show was definitely an easy yes, let's be together, better together.
Amazing, amazing. But I must say, Tracy, your story really inspired me, because what you were telling us about your remarkable journey, and I will not spoil, I'll let you talk through your journey. I think you are the perfect example of somebody who has so much resilience, so much wisdom, but also has so much warmth in her heart. Because you're not one of those who is like, yeah, look at me, I did it all. You're one of those who is inspiring, who is really having this beautiful bright light inside of you. But I bet you anything that wasn't like that all your life, right?
No, it certainly wasn't. There were definitely times where I was told no and bullied and stopped and underestimated. And so a lot of your listeners, I believe, are business savvy and thriving reinventors, whether they're loving moms or they're real estate extraordinaire, whatever it is. I think we're all facing some naysayers, including some internal dialogue right now because of this pandemic going on for so many months.
That's very true, very true. And I must say that many people forget that everything we want in life is actually within us. Because yes, you don't have all your limbs, but you have all that energy, and you have all that inspiration and all that motivation, which is just go through you because you reinvented yourself, which is amazing. And I must say, I can relate to you when you say I was bullied, because I was bullied myself as well. And I know what it feels like. So I'm sure right now there are so many people who also were either bullied at school, or maybe they are still bullied at their workplace, which is so, so common. So Tracy, could you give your best takeaways on at least bullying, and then we can move on into how to be unstoppable? Please.
Yes. It's funny, whether you are bullied as a child or in a workplace, for myself as a woman, or for somebody that may or may not have gone on to get their master's in business, or somebody who might be young and they're facing some, the old dogs and all the lifers in the organization. And I remember during a strike it was several years ago, whether it was United Airlines in the States or Air Canada in Canada, or whether it was like a Ward Air or a British Airways airline, everywhere in the world got turned upside down when they came up with some more thrifty, economical airlines, shall we say, like Ryanair out your way. And so there was a ton of striking and mergers and bankruptcy. And they had brought me in as the girl that turns the no's, N-O's, into K-N-O-W. We just don't know. And I stepped out of an elevator and I stepped into this space where there were about 12 suits. And 10 of them were men and 2 of them were women, but everybody was in suits. And they all looked at me and everybody looked super miserable. And I heard one of them like turn to the other fella and say, after looking at me, "Oh, great. This is going to be a whole waste of time."
No.
And so, of course, right, you're right there with me. I'm making it about me, right? I hear it. They're looking at me. They must be talking about me. So there's mistake number 1, why I went straight in my head to they must be talking about me, right?
It's natural.
Right? It's natural. And basically that sentence is empty and meaningless until I gave it some meaning. And I totally made it all about me. And then I totally, you know, when you're in a car accident and everything goes in like slow motion. And so I'm standing there and in slow motion, everything just slowed down. And I'm completely getting intimidated by all of these suits that I meant to negotiate a way forward with. And I time warp into the 5-year-old version of myself. And I remember sitting on a front lawn and I don't have my legs on and there's a blanket, and I grew up in affordable housing. And so where I was, it was on a top of a hill because the property was like the affordable property, and there was gravel everywhere. It wasn't nicely paved roadways and driveways. And so the kids were on a bit of grass across from the gravel, which without my legs on, I had in my head that I wasn't going to be able to get to them. So I was like waving them over, like, "Hi, come fly over here," you know, excitedly, young, naive 5-year-old. And the next thing I heard were the kids saying, one of the bullies saying, "Don't talk to her. She's weird. Look at her. Just ignore her." And so, of course, the young version of myself, like I just was like in my stomach, and I started to cry. And I don't think any of you would judge me for crying. You know, you said at the beginning of this, well, hopefully you don't cry, but you felt the emotion. And you know what? Tears are okay, but it's what you do with those tears. And so the little girl version of myself was like, okay, I have every right to be crying. They're being mean. Or I could cry and do something about it. And, you know, this is my mom in my head, right? How's that working for you? And causing me to re-question myself. So put this story in your head. If something's not working, ask yourself, hear Tracey, Unstoppable Tracy, and Olga's show in your head and say, how's this working for me?
Yes.
And so I realized it wasn't. And I rolled down the lawn because I don't have my legs on. So that's why I was rolling. And on the main road there was a skateboard. And I like to say I borrowed. I borrowed this skateboard. Yes, borrowed. And I don't have my legs on, so I'm sitting on the skateboard without my legs. Both of my legs, for people that can't see or know me, they end above my knees. And so I'm on the skateboard and I'm missing my hands, but I do have one arm that's a bit longer than the other. And so I took that longer arm and I skateboarded over closer to where they were, around the gravel, and I rolled up to where they were. Well, all of the kids were like huge eyes, massive saucers, and they're like, oh, right? And I don't know whether, now I've made myself cough into the microphone. Please forgive me with my dramatic sound effects. I don't know if they were in shock because this girl with no hands and no legs is rolling up into their space. But I really think what they were really shocked about was that I ignored the bully's warning, right? He said, don't talk to her, ignore her. And I showed up and rolled up anyways, right? So they're all in shock. And I can tell that if I don't say something pretty fast, this whole idea of mine is going to go south.
Yeah.
Right? I was like completely this naive kid, and I leapt. I jumped before I thought about what's going to happen. So I wasn't thinking about the fact that, oh my gosh, these kids could beat me up. They could say more mean things. All I thought about was I want over there. So I did whatever it took to get over there, right? Forget all of the problems that might be in place, which was perfect, but an accident by all means. And I show up, and so I can see the bully starting to breathe in to say something, right? And I'm like, oh, I got to talk first.
Now is the moment.
Now is the moment. And what am I going to say? And so I smile and I take a deep breath myself, and I sit up and I try to make myself as tall as I can without my legs on. And I make this eye contact with them across the group in the hopes to inspire some ally or some hearts, right? And I put on a big smile, although I am upside down with fear and panic, right? I am not doing this without fear. It is completely petrified. So I smile and I'm faking as tall as I can be. And I smile and I make eye contact and I look at them all and I just sort of say, hi, I'm Tracey. Can I play?
That's it.
Yes. And I didn't get off that easy. You know, the bully, he's like caught off guard, but then he says, the new kid's always it. You know, like the big tough guy. So, you know, if I was talking to my mom or some adults, I might say, well, I don't know how I'm going to play tag without my legs, right? But these are kids to kids. I can't say with these big players, kind of like in the corporate world, you can't say with the big players, well, I don't know how to play the big game. If you want to play, you got to just jump in. Yeah. So even though I have no idea how I'm going to play tag without my legs, I just said, okay, right? No idea. Well, none of those kids ran off the grass. They all stayed away from the gravel, including the bully. Wow. So even though I didn't know how, I said, okay. And so time warped back to I'm stepping out of the elevator and I'm facing all of these big executives. And the plan now is to take Air Canada and Canadian Airlines, both of which have gone bankrupt. And the government is forcing them into a merger as one airline because they don't want 40,000 people out of work in Canada and that they've got to figure out how to give unemployment to, right? So they forcing this merger, they bring me in and there's 12 unions, flight attendants, pilots, baggage agents, ramp handlers, call center agents, check-in agents, right? There's 12 different unions, 6 from Air Canada, 6 from United Airlines. And I just make eye contact at them all. I smile, I take a deep breath, I stand as tall as I can, and I just say, hello, I'm Tracy Schmitt. Let's get started in as professional a way as I can. And not so different from that 5-year-old self asking to play. Yeah. And so that's my recommendation to all of you, even if you don't know how, and even if they're taller, and even if they're more educated, and even if they're all men and you're a woman, whether they're black or white, lesbian, bi, gay, trans, queer, plus, or with a disability or without, you just say hello confidently, you make deep eye contact, and you fake the biggest smile you can, and you just say, let's get started, even if you don't know how.
Love it. I think this is so powerful, and it just shows how it doesn't matter who you are. It's all within yourself. And even if somebody is bullying you, just go in and say, okay, let's get started. Let's just start rock and rolling. Let's just move on. Okay. But it's about stepping up for yourself. There is nobody who will come to you and will say, let me just protect you. Let me just
No.
do it for you. It just doesn't happen. A bird is just throwing out the little birdie out of the nest because it wants it to fly. And that's what we have to do to ourselves. Just push ourselves out there and say, hey, let's get started. I love
Yes.
it.
Yes. You
Absolutely
can
love
do
it.
it. We can do it. Your listeners can do it.
Absolutely, anybody can do it. Exactly. But Tracy, I wonder when you go into these big corporate organizations and when you're facing, just like you said, these people in those suits with these straight faces looking at you with a bit of disbelief and a bit of thinking like what you can do, don't you sometimes feel like, okay, I did it so many times, but will I be able to do it now?
It is surprising when you think, they told me no in kindergarten. They told me no in sailing. They told me no in skiing. They told me no in scuba diving. They told me no climbing the Himalayas. They told me no flying airplanes. They told me no busting Uber into Canada. They told me no with the pharmaceutical reform, like Boots, and in Canada, Shoppers Drug Mart, or in the US is Walgreens. They told me no, we can't reinvent this model. And it's true. And I kind of feel very lucky to have been born a four-way amputee. Often people say, what happened? What happened to your arms and legs? And what happened is that I was born limitless.
Yeah.
And I spell limitless with a B because I'm limitless. I was lucky enough to be born limitless.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's a secret. Like, what happened to her? Is it an exotic story? And I was just born this way. But there's a bigger secret, and that is, and Olga knows it. So for all your listeners, the bigger secret is that you are all born limitless too.
Yeah.
Right? We are all born limitless. Though I totally get it, because I cry being told no getting into kindergarten, and when I went off to university for the first time leaving home, I cried. And I went to university again, and I did it again, and when I went off for my master's, I did it again, and I don't know what it was all about each time. And right before I left for Nepal, the Himalayas, these were all massive dreams that I had to spend a lot of time influencing and persuading others that without my arms and legs, I was not going to be a burden.
Yeah.
And convince them that I could be there. And then when it finally came down to jumping in, I was petrified. And so this is very true. And, I think a perfect example is I drove down to Magnus Ligidal. He's a gold Olympian. I've sailed in World Cup regattas, Olympic class regattas, sailing against able-bodied men, 27 men and 3 women, Melbourne, Australia, Olympic class regatta, huge event. And everybody had their arms and their legs. I was the only one without my hands and without my legs. And the 27 men are looking at the 3 women and me being one of them and thinking, who is she? Right? And boycotting me, saying, because they themselves have spent their relationships, their jobs, their families, they've sacrificed 24/7 to get to this qualifier for the Olympics. And so they don't want, although they will have big hearts, they don't want somebody to get in the way of this Olympic class qualifier. It's time to focus. This is a qualifying World Cup regatta, not a first try, come and see if you like it kind of opportunity.
Yeah.
And so they boycotted me because they didn't want me congesting their start line. And so because it was Melbourne, Australia, and I live in Canada, I had not spent the $30,000 that it took to fly my boat there. I had chartered a boat. And to make it a little more user friendly for myself, without my legs and without my hands, I used some duct tape and some pool noodles. And
No.
yeah, like really, make it work kind of strategy. And it's a 1-class design. And they told me, I've totally gone off track, but anyway, they told me that 1-class design and that my boat is adapted. So my listening of that was no problem. And I took off the duct tape and I took out the pool noodles And I raced in the boat, unadapted. And these guys are racing with their arms and their legs. And I had no further adaptations. And they can steer the boat with their feet on this particular class of boat. Whereas I had to do everything with my arm, the lines, the tiller, everything. And, even if I came last, I would have been 30th out of 30 in the entire world, in every country, every gender. I would have been 30 out of 30. And I was just basically getting myself some start line practice for my Paralympic trials in January. This was December 2015, right before the Rio 20 Olympics. But I didn't come last. I came 7th.
No way.
Yes. So, you're like, you must, to come back to your question, you must still get that underestimated, no matter how many obstacles you break, how many roadblocks you bust, how many fears you crush, right? That each new one brings a whole new set of fears. And I like to call that FAT.
Yes.
Fear, anxiety, and tension. FAT.
Love that. Love that.
Yeah, fear, anxiety, and we all come with it. Whether you're a CEO, executive, you should have seen John for the for Apple,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
You just think like holy tamale, and you think they're this big founder of Apple, but then you put him on a stage to talk in front of millions with an impromptu, unscripted question, and he froze. And so this is one of the most intelligent people in the world. Or Richard Branson, right? He's one of the richest with the airline of Virgin, and he's got his what is it called, Neckard Island, right? And this phenomenal soul, and he's dyslexic and was teased and bullied and thought stupid in school. And so we all have this story that will come up every time, like you said. And when I went down to Magnus Lidgedal, a gold Olympian, I thought, who I surround myself with, right? I'm choosing to surround myself with Olga. And all of you, I highly recommend Olga's show for that repeat refilling of the soul, because inspiration is like perfume, right? You jump in that shower and it just washes off. And so we need to be reapplying some Olga show to keep us and keep me with my high energy by filling my soul with Olga. And I'm so honored to be here. And so I surrounded myself with a gold Olympian, Magnus Lidgedal, the only one in all of North America. So I drove down there, and for 3 months, I hid sleeping in my car in his boatyard. And every morning at 5:30 in the morning, I would like wash his boats and wax his boats in order to try to get his ear, to get him to be willing to give me a second for a nugget of coaching. And after 88 days of sleeping in my car, it was like you said, you must sometimes just be like, okay, I am feeling stopped today. And it does happen. And it happened in the 88th day of sleeping in my car, getting nowhere with Magnus. And the trouble was, I would face my rearview mirror in my car every day, and I'd be like, today's the day Magnus is going to coach me. And I would face the day, and I go full on. And by day 80, I probably was saying it 12 times before I authentically believed it. Because it's not just saying it, you've got to believe it. And then you go out there and you take action. The law of attraction is not believing it and it manifests. The law of attraction is believing it authentically, deeply, and then you go do whatever it takes to make it happen, which is why I was, for example, washing boats and fixing boats and helping them. But on that 88th day, I think I said it 24 times, and I still didn't believe it. And I knew if I didn't get out the car believing it, and if I was honest with myself, I might have been saying it, but I probably for 88 days wasn't really believing that Magnus was going to give me the time of day. So every day that passed, I believed it less. So I finally changed my mantra, and I looked in the mirror and I just said, today I'm going to be the best version of myself.
I love that.
And then I could get out of the car. And I got out of the car and I helped people on the dock and I helped people with the Hoyer and I worked on some boats and, and I did those kinds of things. And when I was busy making a difference for people all around, washing boats, helping people, being supportive and being more like my natural self instead of the Magnus stalker that I was being for 88 days.
Yes.
Magnus saw me. Magnus saw me supporting other people. And he finally said, come on, let's go sailing.
Wow.
So I think when we are feeling stopped, it's okay, right? We're on a journey and it's where we need to be. And that self-discovery on the journey often gives us that pivot, that reinvention. And we need to be stopped, right? We need to be heartbroken. And we don't need to be every time. Like we don't need death in our family. We don't need loss of loved ones. We don't need to be bankrupt. I don't mean that we need those horrific life, hard to say in words, stories. And I can't begin to imagine what some of your listeners are living. And so when I say no excuses, no limits, right? No excuses, no limits. It's not to be disrespectful of some of those real extreme scenarios. But I'm one of those extreme scenarios, right? My dad has died and I did grow up in affordable housing and I don't have arms and legs. And so I have every reason. I have every excuse and nobody would judge me. But I know that when I have that tough love mother approach that my mom had with me, how's that working for you? I know when I live a life of no excuses, I get to live a life of no limits, no excuses, no limits.
I love that, Tracy. I must say, this is such a golden nugget what you shared there. I mean, I can break down everything what you said into probably mini ebooks right now. Seriously, law of attraction. You mentioned the powerful phrase of, repeating it to yourself until you believe it, and then everything will come to you. But I love the phrase when you actually said that I had to be the best version of me.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, girl, she's talking. I was like, absolutely, yes. Because we cannot wait for other people to come to us, give us opportunity, open the door for us, tell us something, show us the way. But just like in the Matrix, they say, I can show you the door, but it's you who's supposed to walk through that door. And we have to be in our inner power because we have everything what we need for that. But we have to step up into the best version of ourselves, not a semi. It's like, I don't want to bring it up because I know it's going to be posted to, people will listen to this, but it's almost like you can't really have a proper intimacy when you have a semi-hard on, right?
I love it.
You cannot have proper pleasure if it is semi-hard on. The same in life, you have to give it full on, hard, being on yourself, being true yourself, best version of yourself. And I thought, you know what? So spot on. She told the truth. Amazing. Honestly, I love that. But Tracy, I've got another question for you, if I may, if you let me ask another question. So my another question is, simply because you mentioned law of attraction and you mentioned all these mantras, how much your intuition plays, how much big role your intuition plays in your achievements? Do you follow that? Do you go against that? Do you think about everything with your head? How does your intuition is helping you in your life?
I think we really need to respect our intuition. And intuition is a massive part of who I am. And so granted, that certainly makes it easier. But what also makes it easier is when you've had a few successes with it. So then you're more likely to believe it. Like in the law of attraction, they're like, okay, believe that there's going to be an open parking spot at Christmas when you go shopping. And then there it is. And so then when you need to do the bigger, okay, I'm going to get $100,000 sponsor, that you are more likely to believe that because you've practiced some of the smaller goals and you've seen, oh, wow, there is an open parking spot. Look at that. I manifested that. But you also left at a time of day which was more likely to have a parking spot, right? And so you did whatever it took on your end to make it happen. It's not just believing it, it's making it happen. And so I'm definitely, when we talk about those Jungian principles of personality, whether you're extroverted or introverted, and whether you're a thinker or a feeler, and whether you're an intuitive or a sensor, I mean, clearly I'm an extrovert and clearly I'm a feeler. But obviously, just because I lean towards the feeling doesn't mean I'm not able to dial up my thinking. And just because I'm naturally an extrovert doesn't mean that I don't also need to dial up the pause and listen and reflect. And so same with the intuition. I am naturally an intuitive, and I like to go from the gut and jump in spontaneously, like rolling over to that neighbor's lawn before I think about all the things that could go wrong if I did. And so if you're not naturally an intuitive that listens to your gut, it is not impossible, right? If I can do it, you can do it. And it's when I listen to my intuition that, like, I have to get to Magnus Lidgedal, right? When I just knew if I wanted to be a gold Olympian as a sailor in Toronto, competing against international sailors, then I had to get myself around an international coach, right? You want to be filled up, then you surround yourself with some friends. You want to be filled up and stretched beyond where you are right now, then it's Olga, who I listen to when I need to dial myself up exponential. And so I needed to dial myself exponential with a gold Olympian. And I went for it because my gut said go. And my sister was so worried about me. She's like, I'm not helping you pack your car, and this is totally nuts, selling your bed and your wall unit and putting everything you own on the internet. Because if it didn't fit in my car, it didn't come with me, because I had to get to Magnus Lidgedal, the only gold Olympian in all of North America. And that's what my gut told me to do. And so I followed it. And my mom was so sad, and friends were saying, are you sure you're not going through a midlife crisis? When I left that day in October, nobody saw me off in my car. And it was kind of heartbreaking that not a single soul in my world supported this decision for me to just take off and find Magnus Lidgedal. Wow. And so it was scary, but my intuition, my gut was so clear. And I wish that I brought that guttural, intuitive, strong faith in my intuition to every decision, like I did for sailing. But whenever I went with my gut in a deep way like that, it has always paid off.
Wow. Wow, I love that, because I'm a strong believer in intuition. And I must say, seeing you at Della's Voice show and having this massive, massive attraction to your energy, I was like, I need to talk to you. And then, of course, in my head, it was like, yeah, but she's too busy. I was like, stop it. Stop it. Yes. Just send an email. So, and then I sent you an email and also sent you the message on the Facebook. And I was like, okay, I need to have you on my show. So right now, if you are listening to us and you're hearing Tracy's story, you're hearing Tracy's motivation, you are immersed into Tracy's inspiration, you know this is for a reason. You do know that everything that happens, it happens for a reason. So right now, you got to pick up the phone, you got to contact Tracy, you got to pick up that, email and type an email, because when you are exposed to something like Tracy, her energy, her wisdom, and everything what she says here, that means this is the time for you to step out of your comfort zone. Whether you're a businessman, whether you are individual who just not sure, kind of wanna be, but I'm not sure, Tracy is the girl. That's it. Because Tracy, I must say, you are beyond inspiration. You really are. I'm not sure what type of human you are. I don't think so. You are a human. You are.
Part robot, my prosthetic legs, right?
Seriously, you have such a huge amount of energy, and you have such a huge amount of wisdom and inspiration within you, that this is beyond normality. Absolutely beyond normality. I admire you endearly, and I just wish everybody who hears your story today, whether businessman, businesswoman, doesn't matter what race, what color you are, it doesn't really matter. Please make sure you do get in touch with Tracey, because she is a game changer. She got what she is not right now, not just because she was having a perfect life, but because she had something within herself, and she can help you to reveal that within yourself too.
Ah, well, thank you so much, Olga. And I have the book as currently, just during the pandemic, as a download.
Oh,
It's a self-coaching book. So, you know, the bullying story from today is unique to today, but the Magnus story and many more stories. But what's unique about this book that sort of keeps all of you being unstoppable, the limitless secret to untapping that, refueling your unstoppable, and believing in yourself, that self-talk in the mirror, the end of every chapter, there's coaching questions.
wow.
And so you can self-coach with these questions. And you can also, in your business world with your direct reports, you can repurpose, because it's stress management, it's developing others, it's leadership depending on the situation. So it's how to turn those no's and those naysayers around to understanding and influencing and persuading in a way that generates the conversations, because you know you've got what people need. And right now you're just being stopped by them not knowing what they want, and not realizing that you've got exactly what they need. And so feel welcome to go to unstoppabletracy.com to get the download of the book, and I will email you back the download, and you can do the self-coaching for yourself, or you can use it as a repurpose tool with your teams, with pleasure. That's my pandemic gift to folks. It's online for $32 US. I don't know what that translates into in euros now, because there's a fluctuating dollar and euro, so it's always changing on me. But that about 30 euros would be what I would guess in your world. But I'm supporting it as a gift for the pandemic. So happy to send you that downloadable, and bring me in as your speaker or your trainer or your educator. Though better yet, equip yourself with the tools to be the trainer and the educator, and repurpose a podcast with Olga as a tool for your teams, and share this in your worlds, and you'll be laughing.
How exciting. I must say, everybody who will come across you, Tracey, will be absolutely mesmerized by you. 100%. And I think everybody who's right now thinking, okay, I'm stuck, I'm not sure what decision I should make next, or how can I grow, or what can I do? That's it. Email Tracey, get in touch with her, and she's the girl. She will make the world. Move
Thank you,
the world.
Olga.
She will move the mountains.
Olga, you're so good to me. And I don't know if you know, but I've got a video that's got well over 1 million views and climbing. So I actually have thousands and thousands of messages and emails and Twitters and direct messages on Instagram. And so I just want to caution your wonderful listeners that you're sending my way, that there is an abundance of folks. And so you've got to remember, like with Magnus, it took me 3 months of washing his boats before we had a breakthrough. And what worked with Olga, she's like, come on my show. And so it was win-win for me and Olga to celebrate and reach thousands of people rather than just one-on-one, because I've been so blessed to be now in the millions target audience, that I do my very best to support the most people I can. So there isn't a lot of one-on-one Tracey coaching anymore, because it's just gone so viral and exponential, and not because my heart doesn't want to. So definitely, you want to become unstoppable, get the downloadable book and self-coach your way through, is my encouragement to you. And if you need something specific for a large group of folks, then be unstoppable about finding me from my website, unstoppabletracy.com. And please don't take it personal if the messages get buried on Facebook, but give it a go. Me and Olga connected, and so we can make this work.
I love that. We can make this work. How powerful is that? That's it. We can make this work. And I think this message is a really, really good message to finish off this amazing show, which I thoroughly enjoyed. And I wish I just could be staying here with you forever, but I must respect your time. And I'm so grateful for everybody who was watching us today. And I'm sure they were just immersed in your amazing energy. They got inspired. I'm sure they got motivated, and I'm sure they're right now probably walking away with some notes from this show as well, which will be amazing. But I will make sure I will share below the video all the contact details to you, so people can get in touch with you, so they can download the book, so they actually can book you for speaking and many other arrangements. So this is easily to access, and they can do it with just one click. I love how Amazon just did just one click. I love doing that. Amazing. So thank you so much, gorgeous lady, once more for being today on my show. I really enjoyed your energy. I'll wish you nothing but greater success. Please go beyond this planet of Earth and win the planets.
Woo!